A little more relaxed this week, or calm. This accusation is rendered or leveled at us very often. If you're living your faith in the right manner, some family member will have at one point have said to you, "You're a hypocrite." To which I respond, we're all hypocrites. None of us lives to the full measure of the gifts and the blessings God wishes to endow upon us. We should try to correct our shortcomings. But we're all part of the same hypocrisy, unfortunately. Hopefully I'm not furthering it, but I'm a weak man, I'm a wounded man, I'm not the full man God intends me to be. I got to grow into that. We all do. A second accusation leveled against us is, when you don't have to go to Mass. That's ancient rituals, that's human tradition. No, it's not. No, it's not. How is it relevant? How does it meet me in my present day questioning or searching or yearning or the things I need to receive in my daily life? Well, I don't know. Someone just told me a little while ago, he's about to be, I knew this, but the way they phrase it, he's about to be present on our altars all throughout the world. He's going to be present in our hearts. That's pretty relevant. It's pretty present. I left the Catholic Church because I didn't get fed. Are you familiar with John chapter 6? Every Catholic should know John chapter 6. Christians are going to spin it a million different ways. The Catholic's got a very simple explanation. I know it's going to sound crazy. I'm going off the reservation here. He actually meant what he said. There it is. He said what he said. He meant it. And the church you're sitting on has continued to perpetuate this form of true religion. Pure, undefiled worship for the greater glory of God and the sanctification of His people. So last month, the church's liturgical calendar, the lectionary, we read from the people read from the lectionary, and these are the Gospels. The Gospels highlighted John chapter 6 for a straight month. And I got to tell you, since I've been in this parish, there was more positive feedback between Monsignor, myself, and Father Simon with the people in the parish and the people you've talked with, calls, letters, appointments. People were touched and moved by the pronouncement that they may not have heard or may have misunderstood. That the Word did become flesh. Yes, Christian people of God, the Word did become flesh. And then He said, I am the living bread that comes down from heaven. If you eat this bread, the bread of angels, the transubstantiated bread, even if you die, you will live forever. And whatever problems you're facing, whatever crisis you may be having, whatever doubts or whatever is pressing in on you, trust me, it will pass. As you pass over by His grace, love, and peace, and His blood, and His true body. So, one of my points is clearly transubstantiation. You need to be familiar with John chapter 6. Christian people, read it. It's right there. And do me a favor, like a detective, I don't know if you heard the onion theory. If you're a detective and you go to the scene of a crime, it's an onion. Sorry, I'm giving away the detective's playbook. Husband's dead, where's the wife? Parents are dead, where's the kid? Start with the most basic, simplest explanation before we get into conspiracy theories. Read John chapter 6. What's the simplest explanation? Catholics are right. Our form of worship is the worship Jesus intended us to have. That's why you're here. Transubstantiation. Point number 2. I'm giving the same homily. I might do this to the rest of my priesthood. It's because people need to hear it. They misunderstand it. Look, I need to be told, ask Monsignor, I need to be told the same thing over and over and over again. Yes, monthly, sometimes weekly. Yes, it's true. Every day. Brother Joe, I told you, don't do that. Yes, Monsignor, very sorry. Won't do it again. You said it yesterday. Sorry, I'll try better. Try to do better. Okay, point number 2. We become who we receive. If I am right, if we are right, if Jesus is right, This is great news. We get to become like Jesus. We get big word. Catholics know it. John chapter 6. Divinization. We become like God. A year ago, very serious story. About a year ago, I buried someone of suicide. And I mentioned not at the funeral, but at Sunday Mass. I would not mention this at the funeral. I mentioned this at Sunday Mass. I asked the question, does God give us at times more than we can handle? I didn't answer it. I asked the question. Some woman wrote me a beautiful, I love your letters. I do. A very thoughtful, scripture-cited letter. And it was beautiful. And she alleged that I said, God never gives us more than we can handle. She said I said that. I didn't. I asked it as a question. And she correctly pointed out, this may be news to you, because there's an old wives' tale I have to despoil. God sometimes gives us more than we can handle by ourselves. He does. That's where divinization comes in. St. Paul begged God, God, take this away. I can't deal with this. Take this away, this thorn in my side. And God spoke to him and said, I am sufficient enough. In your weakness, I will make you strong. We get God's grace that helps us do what other people under similar circumstances could not do. Look at the Blessed Virgin at the foot of the cross. I don't want to mention my buddy Mike, the firefighter who's here. His mom passed, like, I don't know how many years now, 15 years ago. She had 4 children. She was in her 40s. The reason I love Mikey so much is because one of the biggest funerals as a young priest was his mom's funeral. And she had 4 children. She died in her 40s. And they all go to church. And he's in church. He stuck with it. How did she deal with it? How did his father deal with it? How did he deal with it? How did his sisters deal with it? How did his younger brother deal with it? God gives us grace. I want grace. It lifts us up. Divinization. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to praise God with true worship and thank Him. I want to thank somebody. And even in my crosses, I see so many people who are able, and God bless you for doing it. Look, we got this backwards. The priest gives the homily, the priest says Mass. Yes, the priest is an important part of the church. You carry, at times, major crosses that we watch you do and we watch you handle. And some of you are heroic and you suffer quietly and patiently and nobly at the funerals, at the wakes, through divorce proceedings, through betrayals and people getting fired, not being able to find jobs, and staying with the faith, not shaking the fist. And even if you did shake the fist, you said you were sorry, you moved on, no more fist shaking. This is not going to get you anywhere. That's an emotional response. I understand it. I can handle it. I just don't do it. I'm sure I did before. I won't do it now. He didn't do this. He didn't cause your mom's cancer. He didn't take your son because he's capricious. And he just wanted to see what would happen if he took your son. Because he had nothing better to do that day than to take your son. And people walk this earth with hardened hearts and heavy souls over the loss or a tragedy, doing this. And they should be doing this. And letting them in. And being consoled by the Blessed Virgin, the same sufferings, they should be able to console us. By the Lord's own sufferings, He should be able to console us. And with Him we can do more than we could ever do by ourselves, with a higher power. Now, point number 3, this is all my last month's homily, same material, I kind of know it. The third point, transubstantiation, John chapter 6. Divinization, like St. Paul, it's not I who live, it is He who lives in me. The third part, evangelization. Now watch this move. This is a good move. I think it's a good move. I did it last Mass. It worked out okay. It works out here. I was at my coffee club yesterday. You know the coffee club? I'm not going to name the name of the place I drink coffee in. It's across from the Catholic bookstore downtown. Okay? So we had about an hour and 15 minutes of heavy coffee talk, serious business. You know, the social unrest in the United States between people of color and law enforcement. Abortion, women's rights, you name it. Do I have to go to Mass? Very thoughtful people. Very thoughtful people. Jim, one of the guys in the group, he's a drug dealer. He's a pharmacist. He's a drug dealer, pharmacist. Anyway, Jimmy, he kept being a little antagonistic. I don't think you have these. I don't know if you have these. And maybe don't try this at home. A very serious intellectual, moral, social, scientific conversation about where America's going. What does America stand for? Are all these behaviors to be tolerated? Is anything okay? Is only the conservative message to be tolerated? Is only those of us who want to claim tenaciously? I'm reading Newt Gingrich's book on when Washington, when they won Yorktown to win the war and capture the British. Is it okay to hold on to what the early fathers and mothers of this country taught? Or that's just archaic? That's old stuff. We got a new system, Father. We've evolved. Forget the constitutional republic. We do what we want. Anyway, and I'm always working. You know I'm always working. I'm always working. I love it. I love it. I got the best job in the world because I don't feel like I'm working a day in my life. I always want someone to receive the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I spend more time as a priest correcting misunderstandings. And I got to be honest, full disclosure, I am of the opinion that most people who tell me, Father so-and-so said this, they are lying to me, or they misunderstood it. Yes, there are a few bad priests. There can't be that many still. Why is it whenever I go out publicly, people wait in line to tell me a bad story about a priest? Call me with a good story, you'd cut the line. Seriously. So anyway, I'm correcting all these misunderstandings. Watch this move. Watch this move. A little girl, fire truck, big sign across, big for all the firefighters. A little girl walks over to the table, and she just looks at me. Obviously, she knew who I was, dressed in plain clothes. Obviously, she knew who I was, but she just stood there. Everybody stopped. She was gorgeous, innocent, 8 years old, turned out to be 8 years old. She had a book in her hand. And we're all stopped. So the mother came over. Oh, Father Jerome, hi, this is my daughter, and we're going to get our nails done. And then she said, I told her we'd had some time so to bring a book, and she wanted you to see this. And she pulls up her first Holy Communion prayer book. No matter how hard I tried intellectually with these members of my coffee club community, a couple go to church, a couple here today, but a lot of them don't. I'm always working. This young girl's testimony, her innocence, her reverence for the priest. I know I don't deserve it. You know that. She doesn't. Don't spoil it for her yet. She wants to be nice to the priest. Let her be nice to the priest. You want to give me a gift card? Give me a gift card. I'm okay with it. We'll say thank you. Nah, you don't need a bum. Be nice to the priest. Come on. Or Simon, different story. Me? Be nice. No. So she was so cute. Everybody took notice. Here's my point. Sometimes with people you love, it's not just arguments, it's not just big education, it's not just systematic, linear thinking. I wish everyone thought linearly. I gave a homily the other day, I go, look, it's either this or this. There's no third option. Either Jesus wants you in church to receive his body, blood, soul, and divinity, to cooperate with his salvation, to go to heaven, or he doesn't. Make up your minds. That was Monsignor's homily the other day. Make up your minds. Make a choice. We don't have to choose. You just chose. You just chose. By staying home and drinking coffee and eating waffles this morning and not making the Mass, you made a choice. And you didn't choose this. You didn't choose him. So my point is, she, by not saying a word, she evangelized. You evangelize in the way you carry your crosses. You evangelize in the way you purport yourself. You evangelize in your dress code. You evangelize by your joy or hospitality. I don't want to mention, because we're on camera, but we went to the home of the highest law enforcement agent in this town, Monsignor and Father Simon and I, and he served with an apron. He served us. It's good to serve. Don't follow my lead after Mass. If I'm at someone's house, what do I do? Put my feet up? I start looking for some coffee? Start going through stuff? No, don't be like that. You'd be surprised. How about a compliment for Father Simon? Do you know Father Simon does the dishes at home meticulously? He'll clean I've never cleaned the countertop in 5 years. And you believe it. It's true. Just ask Father Simon. Father Simon cleans. He does. I mean, quite honestly, like a little obsessively. But he actually serves. He's a server. When you go to someone's house, it's nice to be a server. It's nice to put on those virtues of Christ, to witness to other people. That's the point. We need to all be better witnesses of our faith, of our joy. And there's got to be one. Oh, last thing. So, this is a simple homily. We're on the same page. Here's where I'm going to lose some of you. Here's what I'm really summing it. Jesus articulated specifically those things, unchastity, impurity of heart or mind, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, licentiousness, envy, blasphemy. We got to leave some things behind if we're going to become more like Christ. Look, I have some familiarity with the 12-step programs. And in 12-step programs, they have what's called a fourth and a fifth step. A fourth step is a fearless and searching moral inventory of yourself. That's the fourth step. The fifth step is to tell another person and God the exact nature of what you have done wrong. And I'm here to tell you, they do a far better job in general than the average Catholic. We do not fearlessly and thoroughly search our moral conduct. We need to elevate our consciences to look within. It's not what comes into us that's bad, it's what we do with it. It's how it incubates within us. And we got to call this stuff out. Poor Mikey, when his mom was getting treated for cancer, she did not go to the doctor and say, "Doctor, today, just take out some of my cancer. We'll leave a little behind." That's what people do sometimes with confession. Get it all out. You don't need to tell me a long story. I feel like the guy from Dragnet. Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. But get it out, you must. Look, in an exorcism, which happens very, very rarely, the first thing the priest does is get the devil to differentiate himself from the person, I don't know why they call it a he, she is inhabiting. Just kidding. The devil's inhabiting. You got to call it out. Confession is a minor exorcism. You call it out. Look, I get guys who come to confession after 20 years. God bless you. If you've not been to confession in 20 years, come and see me in confession. Well, they haven't been around. They don't know what's going on. So I don't want to help them. So I'll say to some guy, it's happened. I'm more than 60, 70% of the time. Any unchastity, what does that mean? Do you have any impurity of thought or action? Oh, no, Father. Do you want to add lying to the list? I'm serious. Really? 20 years? Did you ever go out? Did you ever leave the house? Are you a prisoner? Did you ever see the way people dress? TV? Whatever? Call yourself out. Why do I don't want to get up here. It's always uncomfortable. Whether it's a parent to a child, a spouse to a spouse, why do I got to get up here and give you the kind of feedback you should be giving yourselves before a crucifix, before the love of God? Look, I hear confessions. Girls more than boys. People are jealous. I got greed. I don't have a lot of money. I got greed though. I'd like to have more security. I would. If you can help with that, I'll talk to you after Mass. No, but I'm being sincere. Call yourself out for what it is. I'm not, jealousy is not my issue. People are jealous. If you got good stuff and you're happy and you got great faith and you got more gifts, the girl who sang, who wouldn't want that voice? I'm not jealous of her. God bless her. She's raising all of us up in prayer and song. But people got this stuff. Blasphemy. The Lord's name in vain. OMG. Don't do that. Well, I wasn't blaspheming. Stop it. God's last name is not damn it. And people do it. And I see it on TV. I got basic cable. We got little goofy movies in our house. But they use it sometimes after 10 o'clock or something. It's bad. But call yourself out. You may swear. You may be judger. But for us to become more like Christ, we got to cast away from us what makes us unlike Christ. Agreed? Agreed. One more thing. Along with the casting these bad things out of us, the deceit, the malice, the arrogance at times, for me, folly. I got to confess that. I'm having way too good of a time being a priest. And sometimes it's folly. Sometimes I know this about myself, trust me. I should be at times, a little more serious. I suspect for psychological reasons to keep my sanity, I choose folly. I choose folly. And if I have any kind of seemingly favoritism towards men in some ways than women, probably just to keep myself holy and pure. I suspect we all have psychological mechanisms that keep us sane and healthy. But some might be character defects, and some may need to be exercised. One more thing. You also need a gratitude list. We can't walk out of Mass today with a sourpuss on our face. We got heavy crosses. Some are carrying even heavier ones. But look at what you got. What did St. Paul say? St. Paul said, the Father... Somewhere. Why don't I have a secretary? The Father. There's got no more papers. You heard what he said. The Father of lights gives us every good gift. Everything you got came from God. You got your life. You got your health. I got cancer, Father. You had a lot of good years. You had a lot of good years. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. And I'll be with you. We'll be with you. Your family will be with you. You had a lot of good years. We're living longer these times. I'm not trying to put anyone in the grave any sooner. But you're not in prison. And maybe you know someone in prison. You got your parents. Maybe they're divorced. They still love you. We got to find ways to be grateful. I'm telling you. I went to jail the other day to visit. I felt so happy walking out of the slammer. I spent a whole hour in there. No, I'm serious. I'm not in prison. As far as I know, it's about, let me start, it's about 9:32 right now. I saw someone look at their watch. It's about 9:32, 9:35? Okay, 9:35. We'll talk later. I just want you to, I'm going to walk away. I just want you to be grateful. Be grateful. And follow the other things I told you.